Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Amacid and today I wanted to walk you all through my Spark Inquisitor, my league starter for Forbidden Sanctum 3.20. This is what I played last league as well, but this league it's making a return. I did make some adjustments this time based on just making it so I don't die as much, essentially. But we'll walk through all that when we get to the gearing section. But I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the build, why I chose it, and how it's performing. So I chose it because I know it's a really strong league starter because I started it last time. It's really good from pretty much level 1 all the way through deep end game. But for Forbidden Sanctum in particular, I chose it thinking this is going to be a really good build for the Sanctum, and spoiler alert, it is a super good build for the Sanctum. You can bounce off the walls, you have insane damage, you don't really have to aim, and you have like skill shot guards and stuff like that. That's huge. So it's been a really amazing choice for that. The damage has been incredible. Defensively, it's stronger than it was last league for me. I made some adjustments, and again, we'll get there. But it's a really strong bosser. Overall, really incredibly fast mapper. You can do pretty much any content in the game with this build as long as you scale it. Now, there's obviously a lot of different routes you can go. You know, if people are doing like self-chill Spark, I'm doing more of a normal, standard Spark Inquisitor, no self-chill, none of that fancy shenanigans, okay? This is kind of the more straightforward version. So I think let's just go ahead and jump right in, and I will show you the gear, the setup, the POB, everything, in case you think this is a build you might want to try, and I recommend it. I really can't recommend it enough. It's such a fun build, but I will show you all of that in just a moment. Alrighty, let's take a look at the gear, the tree, everything, and I'll walk through everything as best I can. Hopefully I don't miss anything or forget, but I'll try and walk through the gear, how I chose it, you know, price-wise, everything, how much it took to put together and everything. Again, this is a build showcase. This isn't a build guide, but I did just want to show you all sort of how the build looks, right? That's the main thing. So I am using a one-hander and a shield. I actually crafted this myself. It's not insane, but it does the job. The prod speed is quite nice. Prod speed is super good for Spark because you end up in situations, right, where you can cast and your sparks are moving around constantly and hitting the enemies repeatedly. So we got prod speed here. That's quite nice. And the spell damage, obviously nothing too much to talk about. It's pretty self-explanatory. Helmet is pretty garbo. I'm basically using it as a mule for the craft there, the trigger socketed spells when you focus, as well as for the enchant. Obviously Spark fires 3 additional projectiles is quite nice. So the reason why we want this trigger socketed spells when you focus is we have a couple things socketed in our helms that we want to cast all at once. We've got Tornado, which is huge for projectile-based skills, Frost Shield, and Sigil of Power, and all of this adds damage and defense. So instead of having to cast them all individually one at a time, we just hit focus, and it casts them all at once. So easily done, easily saves you the time. You don't really need this per se, but it is very, very nice quality of life, and honestly will save you a lot of time and trouble down the line. The shield is not that great either. I basically just crafted it. I bought the base. I hit a couple essences on it. I got T1 Chaos Res. I said my Chaos Res sucks, so let me keep it. But ideally, you want a higher spell damage roll than that, and then the Chaos, and then everything else is good about it. It's just the higher spell damage roll is really what we're looking for. This was a nice upgrade over my last shield, though, so I went with it. Body armor, I picked this up for 5 divines a couple days into the league. Frenzy Charge on hit is really, really nice because Frenzy Charges really scale the build damage quite nicely, and then spell crit is huge because we are crit based, so getting that flat spell crit does help a lot. This shield, before I got this 119% increased crit chance for spells, this basically caps my crit, as you'll see in the POB, but before that I was flying a little bit under the radar, so the multi wasn't as strong, so this is doing quite well. Call of the Brotherhood, basically it's a defensive layer, right? We're getting a lot of defense from just switching over lightning damage to cold, so we get that chill effect as well. That's quite nice. I also got the cannot be ignited implicit on this. That also just helps because I was getting ignited and I didn't have a way to prevent it. I'm not ailment immune. I didn't really want to deal with it in a flask, so I ended up just using it here. This ring, nothing too much special about this. The only thing I'll call out here is that Spark mana cost is definitely a thing because you're casting so fast. If you look at my mana on the bottom right, it's casting a lot. So if you don't have sources of reduced mana cost or minus mana cost of skills, stuff like that, you're gonna and that's gonna feel really clunky to the build. So getting that is really, really good. And then cast speed as well is really, really nice for the build. Scales that. Ashes, I just picked this up today. This enabled a couple things, right? The quality, I'm not really fully utilizing the quality part yet. I don't have enough alt quality gems, really any alt quality gems socketed yet. So once we get that going, it'll feel a lot better. Like if I can get, you know, the projectile alt quality spark, that's going to be huge. If I can get some alt quality auras, that'd be nice because I got clarity. I have Precision, I have Herald of Thunder, Zealotry, Tempest Shield, Determination. A lot of auras, but no alt qualities just yet. So once I get some alt qualities, this will be beneficial. But getting that reservation did enable me to put in Precision as well as Herald of Thunder and a low level Clarity to fix any kind of mana issues that I was having. So that's quite nice there. So Ashes was a really nice upgrade, but it's not critical to the build at all. You can definitely get away with it without it. Gloves, pretty standard. The implicits are quite nice. The projectiles pierce. Obviously, we are a projectile based build, and Unnerve is just a great source of additional damage. Again, the craft there as well. Similar reason as the implicit. Same reason why we socket Pierce in here. It's quite good. Ignore the quality. I corrupted it and it missed. Sag. Belt, nothing special. Basically just a Dex Mule. And these boots are actually quite bad, and I really do need better ones. They're not really doing much for me. So not too much to say there. This is quite nice. Rumi's Concoction, some nice defense there, but the rest is pretty straightforward, right? I actually don't need this anymore because I just crit capped. But because I didn't have this shield until like, I don't know, 3 hours ago, so I can get rid of this for something else. But the Silver Flask is quite nice for guaranteed onslaught. So we take that. I don't remember exactly how much it was, but it was about 500k damage, I want to say, when I used it. Maybe 300k, something like that. It was a lot of damage. Overshock is nice. Effective lightning ailments works, as well as Disorienting Display, that chance to blind enemies when using an elemental skill. Because you're casting so much, they're constantly blinded, which gives another defensive layer there. That's really the only main piece. I think ideally I would swap something like this out for a Glorious Vanity, a good Glorious Vanity, and that could cover a bunch of these nodes, but I haven't done that yet. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. I'll link the build in the description. I decided to go with a shield this time instead of the staff. So last league, I started with a staff. Rather, I used a shield and then I switched into the staff to get some cheap, easy damage. But the staff is just so glass cannon-y, and it's not bad. Like, if you like that playstyle, you don't really mind dying, you just kind of want to go and do damage. I mean, you'll nuke bosses with that thing for sure, with the Annihilating Light staff. But this time around, I wanted to go a little more defensive, and get some extra bonus shield block, which is quite nice. That adds a lot of EHP. So I decided to go for that this time. That's why I'm using the shield, although it is a quite offensive shield, obviously. My previous shield was a lot more defensive, but I decided to go a little more all in on offense here, pick up some Chaos Res, and then call it a day, because my Chaos Res, as you'll notice, is quite poor. So we still have a lot of room there. But anyway, that's the build. If you guys liked it, I hope you think about playing it. If this is for a first character, second character, honestly, this is, in my opinion, one of, if not the strongest Sanctum characters available, specifically for the Sanctum, but for the League as well. You literally cannot go wrong with this skill. I will link in the description. I originally, last league, when I started this skill for the first time, I followed Anime Princess's guide. I will link his description, or excuse me, his video in the description below. So take a look if you're curious and you want to see how it goes. He goes through the leveling process. He explains everything really, really well. One thing I will note here in the POB before we just end the video is that spark damage is very difficult to calculate. It's not perfect, because it's basically like sparks hitting, bouncing, and they're hitting, they're bouncing, they're hitting, they're bouncing. It's not perfect. So it's an approximation. You're never going to know the exact damage of spark. But overall, it's a really strong skill. I mean, you can see it. Hopefully you saw it a little bit in that preview of the map, but it's really good. I've got all my watchstones on much worse gear than I'm wearing right now. So you will be fine. You'll be fine on much worse gear. But it's a really great skill. I hope you like this video. If you decide to play it, I hope you enjoy it, and I will catch you in the next one.